My post-fight thoughts on last night's main event between Bermane Stiverne versus Chris Arreola 2, the rematch. Early on, the fight went as I predicted, that Arreola would fight a smarter fight, a better fight, and that we would see a better fight than the first time. It was an interesting matchup again for a rematch, and Chris was doing everything he needed to do. He was winning the early rounds in the first half of the fight. And then, unfortunately, even though he did get caught early in the fight by that same right hand that had broken his nose in the first fight with Stiverne, besides that, I felt that he was winning the fight and was doing what he needed to do to win. And he was catching Stiverne with some hard shots himself and doing a good job of keeping Stiverne up against the ropes and doing work there. But ultimately, Stiverne, this was, according to him, his game plan to let Chris get comfortable and then finally attack. And that it did appear that that's what happened, but we don't know how. I mean, if that really was the case as far as Stiverne and his game plan, because I mean, it's almost like discrediting everything that Chris did, because Chris did find success early in the fight. As for where they each go from here, I think Stiverne is a lot better than people give him credit for, and is really a dangerous guy. Especially if you mention Deontay Wilder, who is the mandatory, or Stiverne is the mandatory for Deontay Wilder, and I'd say even the Klitschko's. Maybe he needs a few more fights to get there, but this guy is definitely dangerous. He's very quiet, but he has power in both hands, and he's a lot smarter of a boxer than, like I said, people will give him credit for. And I just think that he's a lot better than what he has been said to be thus far. And we're just going to have to see how his career goes. But that was definitely the biggest win of his career last night. As for Chris Arreola, I believe that it's in his best interest, and anybody in Arreola's camp's best interest, for him to leave Henry Ramirez. And I know that that's a tough obstacle to overcome, and nobody ever wants to leave the guy that helped get them to the point where they're at now in their career, when they've been through so much. But this is a business, this is boxing, and he himself, Arreola himself, has said, how he sees it now, and understands what he has to do. But if he really wants to be a title challenger and eventually a world champion, I think that he needs to leave his comfort zone, and that is training with Henry Ramirez. And if I were, part of Arreola's camp, or anybody that has his interest, I really would consider taking him to Oxnard and training with Robert Garcia. You obviously can't train a dog to learn new tricks, as they say, but that's not necessarily what the case is here. And I think that the discipline and everything that Garcia does, and not only that, him being in Oxnard, which is, hours away from Riverside, where Chris is obviously too comfortable at, there's just a lot that I think would benefit Arreola from training under Robert Garcia, or at this point, if not Garcia, just about any other trainer, but somebody who will pretty much dictate what's going to go on in training camp and in a fight, and not let Chris get too comfortable with anything. And that's basically it. And along with Robert Garcia, if he were to go to Oxnard and train under Robert, he'd have Alex Ariza there, and they have a very strict strength and conditioning regimen, which would only help Chris. It's to me, after last night's fight, it seemed like a no-brainer for Chris to pack his bags and go to Oxnard. Other than that, I really don't see anything else that he can do to get to that level, to the next level. And that's just the bottom line. We know that he has power and he has heart, but you need a little bit more to get to the top, which is, where he says he wants to get to, and we'll just see what happens from here on out. But if he said that he had 5 or 6 more years left in boxing, and if he has any real intention of getting there to where his goal is to get that green belt or get whatever belt and be a true legitimate champion in the heavyweight division and make history, the ball is in his court, and I think this is a pivotal time where he can make that call. But this is almost like, clock's ticking, time's running out. So we'll see. But I definitely believe that he will benefit from switching trainers, switching camps, and he could be what a lot of people have wondered if he was, which was, at least, in my opinion, a solid heavyweight title contender and eventually a champion. But we'll see how it plays out after